and carcasses. Viewer discretion is advised.
Good morning and welcome on another live safari adventure, starting off with one of the newest arrival on Djuma. This is Safari Live.
Ready. Standing by.
4, 3, 2, 1. You are live, you are live. And a very good morning to all of you, and welcome on our sunrise safari. This is hilarious. The young males don't know what this thing is. Hold on a moment, I'm just going to go forward and then I'll do all of the introductions and so on. But this is just far too cute to pass up the opportunity. My name is Jamie. This morning, Jandre is the man bringing you the amazing images. Byron is out on the vehicle with Zander, also known as Eggsy, and we are coming to you live from a place called Djuma Private Game Reserve. Would you... Hello, little one. Djuma Private Game Reserve in the Greater Kruger National Park area of South Africa. And I'm sorry, I've turned a little mushy because this is the first baby impala I've seen this year. And it is just too adorable, and these young males don't know what it is. It's all confused. And they keep going up to go and sniff it, and then it gets a fright. Look, look, look. What is that? What is that? This strange little mini impala. They're very, very confused. And of course it smells all interesting. Ah, what a magic way to start off a morning. Oh, now we're having a scuffle. Hormones are running wild. You too. And little one doesn't know what's going on. Panic! Isn't that incredible? Few hours old, already clean and dry. It might be the one that Brent saw a couple of days ago, the first baby impala lamb. No, that's a tree, Matiri. That's not your mom, that's a tree. All these new smells. All these new sensations. Where's Mom? You lost Mom. Look at that. That baby is not nearly old enough to be eating solid food. No, little one, that's not Mommy. That's a tree. Looks like it's licking up the termite. Look, it is. It's eating the termite residue. That's a first for me. I have never ever seen that before. Oh, young males come to investigate again. They are so perplexed by the presence of this little thing. Oh, now we're running away. Where's Mom? Where's Mom? Mom. Everybody looks the same. And now my mouth tastes funny because I've been eating termite stuff. Now you're running away from Mom, you silly little thing. You see the instincts to do that stotting motion. Oh, now we're running back. Prancing all over the place. Poor Mom's trying to get back to it. Nyalas are panicking. Impala are running everywhere. Baby's stotting. Oh, this is so cool. And we're gone. Wait, we're coming back. No, we're gone. No, we're back onto quarantine. Right, everybody, let's go and catch up with the mad baby impala. A cool way to start a morning. And now don't forget that because it is live, if you have any questions on this subject, you can send them through on hashtag Safari Live on Twitter, or you can email through to questions@WildEarthTV. At the start of the show, Jandre really wanted us to have a look at the sunrise. I was insistent we stopped at the baby impala. Let's go and have a look at the sunrise from Byron's perspective.
Good morning officially, everyone, and we are watching this beautiful, beautiful sunrise. Really magnificent color in the sky at the moment. So beautiful. What a great start. We've had those ground hornbills calling in the distance. They seem to have just stopped now. And my name is Byron, and with me on camera this morning is Zonda, or Eggsy as we like to call him. And it's great to have all of you with us again. Looking forward to a morning game drive with you, or safari rather. We are in search of leopards. That's going to be my plan and aim for this morning. So we're going to head towards the southern part of the property and drive around these drainage lines, thicker areas, and hopefully look for any sign of leopard. That would be wonderful for today. Now we know yesterday they did have tracks of the Karula female, or Karula, a beautiful female with her two youngsters. But crossing south, across our boundary, now I see lion tracks here, but now I'm just not sure if these are the tracks from yesterday. Possibly the males did walk through here. I just want to double check. I think so. And oh, this is interesting. So I'm just trying to have a look to see if there's anything that's walked on top of these tracks. But I do think those are the lion tracks, and I'll just double check here, but I think those are the lion tracks from yesterday morning. I know Brent followed them from here, and I think that's exactly what those are. Yes, it appears to be the case. Always want to make sure, you never know. I mean, we did have those two beautiful Birmingham males last night, and they performed wonderfully for us. We had 2-3 incredible roars right next to our vehicle, and it was wonderful to show all of you that. But in saying that, that roaring is used to communicate with the other males. So it could possibly be another one or two, because we know there are 4 brothers in that coalition that meet up occasionally, and maybe there was another one that walked through. But I think these tracks that we are seeing here are the ones from yesterday morning or those ones that I saw earlier. From yesterday morning, it does appear as if the vehicle tracks and other animals have walked over those tracks, so it's not fresh at all. And I'm very jealous. We saw an Impala lamb yesterday, but Jamie's got some more Impala lambs, and what an amazing sighting to see them. Let's head back to her and see what they're up to.
We're still with the same Impala lamb, and what an amazing way to start off a morning. Then to watch this little thing, already stable on its feet, already instinctively stotting, running around after mom. It is absolutely stunning. I can't help looking at this baby Impala, thinking how tightly folded it must have been before the female gave birth. This was my first plan of the morning, was to actually drive around quarantine and look at the new Impala lambs. And we have definitely been rewarded. And welcome to Brandon. Lovely to have you on the Sunrise Safari. You want to know how long is the lambing season for Impala? It goes all the way sort of to the point of about February. Beginning of February is usually when we get our latest births of Impala lambs, and that's because with the initial rutting seasons, not all of the females fall pregnant, so we have a second rutting season or a second mating season. So as a result, the births can extend all the way to February, but it's usually between November and January, the peak season of the births. And in fact, the biggest peak is now at the end of November, and we're going to see more and more and more of these little creatures. I'm hoping we're actually going to go, after we're finished here with this little Impala lamb, we're going to do a tour of quarantine. And Kelsey, Thank you for sending through your question. Kelsey's watching in Rhode Island. Kelsey would like to know, how long do baby impalas stay with their moms? And I'm just going to stop here. I don't want to startle them. Not with this little one, still new to the world. If it's a female, they could end up staying with their moms for the rest of their lives. But they are completely weaned around about 6 months. And even a couple of weeks into the birthing season, the little lambs tend to stay away from their mom and in what is known as a creche. So they all gather together, all the little baby impalas gather together as a sort of safety in numbers approach. Oh, Mom, wait for me, Mom. Are you my mom? You're not my mom. Mom? You sure you're not my mom? No, sure my mom didn't have the pointy things on the top of her head. If it's a female, it could end up staying with her mom for the rest of her life, but her mom won't be paying much attention to her once they reach the rutting season once again. If it's a male, it will then, by about a year old, start splitting off. Whenever the next breeding season comes around, it's not actually a year, it's about 9 or so months. When the next breeding season comes around, they'll end up splitting off into bachelor groups, and that will be that in terms of their relationship with their moms. Now, I have a question for all of you. Why was that baby impala licking the termite mound? I mean, the termites on the tree. It was totally bizarre to me. And I don't know if it was a nutritional thing or just an instinctive sucking motion, like puppies and kittens and so on sucking on your finger if you put it there. Oh, that's beautiful. Now, Shamson, you wanted to know, if a baby impala were to lose its mom, would another female take care of it? Usually not. So in the wild, you'll often see, run little one, run! You'll often see the females, whenever a youngster mistakes them for mom. Morning, Rex! Morning, everybody! Whenever the impala or baby zebra or baby wildebeest or baby zebra makes a mistake and approaches another female, there's Rex having a look at the new baby impala. Whenever they approach them, they get head-butted or kicked. So if it's a female with a baby, or another live baby, then she probably won't. If perhaps the female that is doing the adopting had perhaps lost its own baby, then there is a chance that they might look after the little one. It would be very, very unusual, though. I love the two male Nyala just sort of casually walking along behind spectators. But yes, I want to know why that impala lamb was suckling or nibbling on that sort of crusty termite residue along the tree. Nope, I don't think that's Mom. There's Mom. There's Mom. Doing some good cleaning. Here we go, little one. Oh! Mom hasn't quite got used to the idea of what suckling involves, which is some really thorough headbutts to the lower abdomen in order to stimulate milk. Alright, we'll stop and enjoy the view for a second because the clouds are gorgeous. We'll stop and take it in for a moment. Isn't that beautiful? While we take in this view, of course, Michelle wants to know what the survival rate is of baby impala. And we discussed this the other day on Drive, and I haven't been able to find definitive figures for this part of the world, Michelle. And somebody else asked me the same question, and I guessed at around 50-odd%, 40 to 50%, I think was my answer, but it was really entirely a guess. And I'm just trying to find some information on the subject or some actual proper research on the subject, because of course it will differ depending upon where you are in South Africa. Lion concentration, leopard concentration, wild dog concentration, cheetah, predator concentration essentially. I'm going to go trundling along around quarantine while we think about this. I'm going to go look for more babies. So it very much differs from area to area, and I have been trying to find the answer to that. When I do get a definitive answer on the survival rate, I will update you and I will let you know. Let me just stop for one last look. Just one last look. And then I promise I'll move on. I don't really want to, though. Perhaps it was just an exploring its world kind of thing, that it was busy nibbling away on that bark. Like hyenas chewing on sticks. It's so cute. And Lindsay, you've suggested perhaps it was looking for salt. It's a possibility that occurred to me, and I'm going to try and find out, Lindsay, because I think that's a very, very good suggestion. Look, it's licking the ground now as well. And usually geophagy is explained by supplementing minerals. In other words, the process of eating dirt is so that the animal concerned can up its levels of sodium and so on. So that's entirely possible, but it's amazing that there's that instinct already. Look, still, I think that's exactly what it's doing. It's eating dirt. It could also be eating dung, particularly from mom, since coprophagy is also very common in baby animals to help to pass on the digestive enzymes. Well, at some point I'm going to have to tear myself away from this baby impala and this view and go off in search of other things. In the meantime, Byron has found something much, much larger than our impala lamb.
We have indeed found something much larger, and I'm just keeping my voice down. This big hippo, just in a small little mud wallow. And I'm just keeping a close eye on it because, and I'll tell you why, everyone, but usually hippo prefer being in water holes where they can submerge, especially if they feel a bit threatened. And we came around the corner, and this hippo would have heard us coming, but we got a bit of a surprise in seeing it in this mud wallow, very small little pan or wallow. And I think what's happened is this hippo's been moving around feeding during the course of the evening, and what's happened is it's come across this area and thought, well, this is possibly a good place to rest for the day. So when it does start getting warmer, it can roll around and it can still cover itself a little bit in mud and the water. But when they are exposed like this, and they can be a little bit unpredictable. And I have had hippo come out of a little pan like this at us before and give us a bit of a charge. So that's why I'm just watching very, very carefully. Also don't really want to disturb the hippo too much. It seems relaxed at the moment, but isn't this incredible? It's not often you get this close to a hippo. I mean, we're probably only about 10 to 15 meters away. So it is very, very close. Look at the hairs on that nostril, on the snout, rather. Don't often get to see that. Isn't that strange? They are strange animals. It looks like it's almost a little bit, it looks like it's very wary of us, keeping a close eye on us. Don't forget, everybody, we are completely live. So send us your questions or your comments, either via Twitter at #SafariLive or email us questions@WildEarthTV. And we'll gladly answer your questions for you, and we love hearing from our viewers. This is a very special sighting. I'm enjoying this, but I am still very, very careful. As I said, it looks like this is an older hippo too. Just judging by the ears, and they look a little bit worn. And I'm probably going to move on fairly shortly and leave it. Hopefully I don't disturb it too much. I think we might do that now, but what a great surprise. And that's exactly what's happened. It's been moving around feeding, and it's coming to this little water source at the moment. Sorry, I do usually turn the other way, but I want to keep watching it just in case. Lorena, you want to know if this hippo is a bit skinny, and it does look like it is in fairly bad condition. And again, we need to remember, it's because coming out of the drought, a lot of these animals, and a hippo is a grazer, it feeds on grass, and there isn't a lot of grass around at the moment, so they have lost a lot of condition, and you can see the bones on the back and the hips quite clearly. So yes, Lorena, it is skinny, and that's another reason we do need to just be wary and be careful. Again, the animals generally aren't out to get us, but if we threaten them, or if they feel threatened in any way or uncomfortable, they'll react in one of two ways: either leave this little waterhole and run away, or come out and charge at us, especially these hippos. So, but they aren't. This one doesn't look like it's had a lot of food, but now with all the green grass around, it should be a bit better. However, that grass needs to get a bit longer. It's not as easy for this hippo to feed on that shorter grass. So hopefully it does get some food soon. Or substantial food, rather. Alright, I think we're going to leave this hippo to wallow. I'm just going to see what happens when it starts, or when I start the vehicle. Hopefully we don't disturb it. And that's alright. Thank you very much. Well, that was a nice surprise. It was wonderful. Yeah, the hippo's still there, very, very happy. Now, we heard some ground hornbills earlier this morning while we were watching the sunrise. Jamie has found them.
And it is a morning full of lovely surprises, and we just keep getting better in the form of a pair of magnificent, that was a badly timed moment to say the word magnificent ground hornbills as they go about their morning foraging. Now, they're not totally relaxed, but I'm going to try and get a little bit closer now that they've waddled off in the direction of the DRC, which is the camp, not the actual country. They're not going off towards, well, they are sort of going towards DRC, the country, but are sort of really far away, very, very far away. James Richards says that the ground hornbill is a very fitting bird for today, and happy Thanksgiving to all of you who are celebrating it. I hope that you have a lovely day. And yes, very good point, James. It is a turkey-sized bird for a turkey-themed day. Just definitely not one we're going to be thinking of eating, given that they are one of our most endangered species. But yes, happy Thanksgiving to all of you, and I'm hoping you are loving the sunrise safari. This morning is certainly giving us a lot to be thankful for. Alex actually told us that there were ground hornbill around, but I was a little bit concerned that in my excitement, don't run away, it's okay, it's okay, it's okay. In my excitement over the impala lamb, that perhaps I had missed out on the opportunity to see them. I'm thrilled to see that they are still around. As James says, they are turkey-sized birds, absolutely massive and quite a powerful bird. They're around about 6 kilograms, give or take, depending if it's a male or a female. Which equates to about 13, 14 pounds. So quite a heavy, quite a robust bird. And you can see from the massive size of their bull that they are a bird that's geared towards things like breaking and crushing. Things like tiny tortoises will fall prey to their bills. Snakes are particularly good snake catchers, which is one of the things that the conservation projects around ground hornbills try to focus on in terms of education. They are, because they're birds, the matter of their conservation becomes even more complicated, because you can't exactly release them into an area and expect them to stay necessarily. They've got wings and they can fly wherever they want to. Now, they have a tendency to go and smash windows. They see their reflection in it and they think, oh, enemy, and they go and attack it. And it's one thing when a yellow-billed hornbill does it, which is just a tiny passerine, but when a ground hornbill does it, you almost invariably end up with shattered glass. And as a result, people have come to view them as very much as a nuisance. And one of the educational programs that people have been trying to implement in the various communities around reserves where you're likely to find ground hornbill is to try and educate people on the fact that these birds can actually be more of a help than they are a hindrance. So, for example, perhaps clearing one's area of snakes would be one very useful facet of these magnificent birds. And they are magnificent. That striking dark black color. And we're so fortunate to be able to spend time with them because they are, as I said, one of the most endangered species that we get out here. They're one of the apex avian predators. They're also critically endangered. Luckily, it seems as though the ground hornbill populations are making a comeback. But for those of you that perhaps are planning a visit to the Kruger National Park or in fact other areas of South Africa, if you see a ground hornbill with a tag around its leg or a tag upon its wing, most of the reserve management or perhaps the gate staff will know the ways in which you can go about reporting that to the people in the know. Mainly that will be the Mabula Ground Hornbill Project. And they research and they track these beautiful birds, and they are actively involved in reintroducing them to areas where they would have occurred in the past. Look at that. Wonder what that was. It was very pale, very white, whatever that substance was that it just ate. Personally, my favorite part of the ground hornbill is their eyelashes. I really like their eyelashes. The way they turn their heads. You see those massive wings folded over each other. They can fly, even though they are quite bulky birds. They are capable of flight. It's quite a heavy, quite a clumsy flight initially, much like vultures. And they tend to be more terrestrial than anything else. But if they are threatened, they can take to the trees, and they do nest in trees. This is a magnificent male. Absolutely magnificent. See, incredibly powerful legs built for kicking. And there is number 2. Pretty sure that's the female. It's either a female or a juvenile, but it looks like a female to me. I didn't get a good enough look at its face. It does look like quite a young bird. And typically, the females have a slight blue patch underneath their chin. They also don't have such prominent red facial pouches. While our male hornbill struts his stuff, let's go over to Byron and have a look at the antelope he has.
Now, some of you may remember a few weeks ago, James and I did our impression of an Nyala dominance dance or display, and you've unfortunately just missed it. But you could see the hair on the back of that Nyala is still standing upright, and they did that beautiful slow movement, that lifting the legs very slowly, walking in circular motion around one another, just to try and establish dominance and to see who is the bigger male, one with the better dance. Very interesting. I'll walk very slowly. We might still see it because that other male is coming back. So I'm going to hang around with these males a bit. Let's just see it. It would be wonderful if they do it again. Beautiful Nyala males. These are 2 fairly large Nyala Bulls. The other one seems to be moving off a bit. That one's enjoying some green leaves, a bit of grass here, but I think it's actually feeding on tiny little shrubs. The Nyala is a browser, so it does prefer leaves. Let's see, go and follow the other one, and let's see if we can get another display from the 2 of you. It is a wonderful display, and it's very entertaining to watch. Very graceful. The movement, the slow movement, the arched back. Hang on, okay. Let's move forward and see. Come on. This would be great if they display again for us. I'm hoping. Where did the other one go? Okay, they're up here, but hang on a second. Let me just come around this side. Let's see now. That one male in the front is walking away. Doesn't seem like he is. Well, hang on. It's always tricky. You never know what these animals are going to do. Are they going to display? Are they not? Look, they're raising that mane a little bit, the hair around the back, especially this one here. Very, very beautiful coloration to these Nyala. I mean, if you look at the contrast between those brown, light brown legs, which is a similar color to the females, and then that dark grey body with the white stripes. No, they seem to have finished their display. Let's see, the other one is just moving off through the back. You can see him over there. Look how, sorry, look how narrow his horns are. I don't know what happened there, I apologize. Look how narrow those horns are. That's very interesting. Just shows you how different horn structures can occur in antelope. And you'll also see it very, very often with kudu. So one of the other antelope with these large spiral horns, you see different shapes. Some are very, very wide and some are really narrow. So these two were quite different. That male that we saw now, those horns actually came together and were very narrow compared to the other one. The other one's horns were a bit wider apart. They are moving off at the moment. I think they've finished displaying, but wonderful to see them nonetheless. We're approaching a little dam now, little water hole. So I'm hoping I don't know, it looks like, and I can see tracks over here, looks like these two male lions that we had last night, these two Birmingham males, headed back up further into Vuyatela. But in the opposite direction to what we're going at the moment. Remember, we said our plan is to try and find some leopards. But it's always nice to find a big cat, especially the lions early in the mornings. But I didn't hear them this morning. I was trying to listen. I didn't hear them. And also, if they were moving around a lot during the course of the evening, they could be right beyond our boundary at the moment. And we saw that. Oh, look, some impala fighting, male impala, having a little go at each other. Sorry, is that all right? Now, that's interesting because it's not the rutting season or anything, but how we say boys will be boys, challenging each other. Now, the rutting season for impala is around April, May. And that's when the males really get into it and they start fighting and snorting and trying to fight for dominance to be able to mate with females. There is a second rut later in the year for those females that haven't been covered. But at the moment, there shouldn't be a rut on. I think these males are just testing one another, perhaps learning. So, Jeremy, you wanted to know if the impala are anything like the deer that you have in the USA. So, Jeremy, no. Technically not. So, a deer, I'll tell you the main difference between deer and impala. So, impala fall under a family known as antelope, and deer are deer, if that makes sense. But the difference between deer and antelope is that the deer grow antlers, which they shed annually, so they lose their antlers, whereas antelope and all antelope species grow horns, and the horns grow throughout their lifetime. They never lose them. So those impala that we just saw over there, you could see those two males with those beautiful horns that they've got. Deer wouldn't have horns, they'd have antlers. So let's quickly head to Jamie. I think she's got something interesting.
Sorry to rush you across, but just listen. My absolute favorite, one of my favorite sounds. Such a beautiful primitive sound. Like some kind of ancient civilization playing the drums. You can actually hear the vibrations through the cask, that hollow opening in the top of its beak. The others are responding. There's actually 3 of them here, but we can only see this one for now. He's gonna... Let's just be patient. He's gonna pop out on the other side of this bush at some point. Such a beautiful, beautiful sound. Slightly softer than its normal call. It's all about contact calling this call. Different members of the group listening to each other. Love that sound. How cool is that? It is just one of the best sounds in the bush. I just wanted to let us sit in silence for a moment and just take in the atmosphere of that call. Because that's what it does. It creates an atmosphere. I don't know how to describe it. I think most of you will know what I mean about the sort of... It's so primal. I don't know how to describe it. It's a beautiful, beautiful sound. It's lovely to see them. And as I said, there's 3... not 2, as we saw before. Now, Deborah, you wanted to know if that is its mating call. Deborah, no, it's its contact call. So the 2 of them walked ahead, and I'm going to have to go back on myself. We're about to bump into Alex, who is right behind us. I think Alex is just going for a drive, going on an adventure. But we're going to go and loop around them. And Deborah, no, it's not a mating call, but it is a contact call, particularly between the male and the female. But really, it connects the whole group. So I think the one that I thought was a female is a juvenile, and the female was walking a little way off to the left of it, and we just didn't see it. Now I'm going to go. Bear with me. We've got to go all the way around to get there. We're not going to go off-road for the Ground Hornbills, so we're going to have to do a big loop to get back across to them. And welcome to Janice, who obviously is enjoying the beautiful Ground Hornbill. Janice, you want to know, why are Ground Hornbills endangered? Is it because of hunting? Not so much hunting, although poaching would be an issue with Ground Hornbills. There are some traditional medicinal beliefs connected to them. I've never been able to find out what they are. I just know that they exist. I know that there's some kind of connection to the use of Ground Hornbill in what's known as muti, or local medicine, traditional medicine. The biggest threat to these amazing birds is their habitat loss. So as you know, there is such a delicate... Are they still calling? There's such a delicate balance in nature. And human beings, in terms of the impact that we've had, have been absolutely... Some species have just fared worse than others in terms of our encroachment into their lives, and the ground hornbill have not done well. They take about 7 years to reach sexual maturity, so it's quite a slow-growing creature, and the parents invest a huge amount of time and attention in just one chick, kind of like elephants and also kind of in a way like human beings. So it takes them a long time to reproduce. They're also picky reproducers, so they're very picky about their nesting sites. They will return to the same nesting site time and time and time again, and they nest in sort of hollows of big trees. And another thing that's been blamed for the loss of ground hornbill, which I have to say I think is absolute nonsense, is the overpopulation of elephants in South Africa. And because the elephants are overpopulated, so the argument goes, which I don't believe personally, but this is the argument, that they push down the nesting sites. I mean, I don't know. Bizarre, totally bizarre reasoning to me. But anyway, that's the argument that's put forward. But mostly it's humans' impact. And now? How did that even work? Fine. Everything's out to get me. Watch out, John Dread's screwing it again. That might have been a slight overreaction on my part, but it was thorny. So I feel as though it was reasonable. What was I talking about? Ground hornbills. Yeah, I was actually talking about quite a serious subject before the tree tried to behead me. Yes, we were talking about nesting sites, and I actually have a suspicion that this group is nesting somewhere, if not close to Djuma, then around Djuma. It's just because we hear them call every single morning. And it makes me wonder if they don't have a secret little nest somewhere. On that subject, we had a question, and I'm sorry, I've forgotten who asked it because I got distracted by my near evisceration by tree. Melinda, you wanted to know how long it takes the eggs to hatch. Melinda, I don't remember. I did used to know. I think it is round about just over a month, but I see you, ground hornbill, walking through the trees. I think it is just over a month, but to be completely honest with you, I'm not 100% sure. I did used to work with ground hornbills, with the Mabula Ground Hornbill Project, in a minor way, but we used to go and check the eggs as soon as we found a ground hornbill nesting site. We used to go and take the second egg away from them as soon as the first egg hatched, and that's because their second egg is just an insurance policy. The second chick never survives. It is, as soon as one chick hatches, just that advantage of being a day or two older than its sibling, it will either kill its own sibling, or the sibling will die as a result of just being out-competed and not fed by the parents because the other chick is bigger and stronger. Something you'll be very familiar with if you follow the life cycles of things like eagles, lots of the big birds, shoebills, and so on. So if any of you know exactly how long the incubation period is for a ground hornbill, I did used to know. I actually had it. I can see the pamphlet that it was written on that was distributed by the Ground Hornbill Project, and I cannot for the life of me remember. Sorry. Michael, you wanted to know, because of course we've discussed the fact that the chicks are very slow growing. You want to know how long will the offspring stay with their parents until they go off to find their own partners and their own breeding potential. Michael, they are cooperative breeders, so in other words, the offspring will stay with the parents and help them raise the next generation. And hold that thought, because we're going to come back to it. So it's over 7 years that it will take them to disperse, and it can be even longer. And sometimes if my memory serves, there's evidence to suggest that sometimes they don't ever leave at all. They just don't breed. So you get an idea of what a complex creature a ground hornbill is in terms of their family structure. And their highest mortality rate comes as lions. So many sounds today. Right, sorry. The highest mortality comes, from what I remember about the research, when they are dispersing. Sorry, I just got distracted by lions roaring, because we're so spoiled for choice this morning. Oh, why did you stop there? Keep going. There we go. Oh, I was going to talk about the fact that they stay and they help their parents raise chicks. Much like jackal do, actually. And evidence, or sort of all of the knowledge that the Mbula Ground Hornbill Project and other such projects have gathered, is that a hornbill will not be successful in raising its own chicks unless it has practiced with its parents' chicks. How fascinating is that? So that process of cooperative breeding not only helps the parents, but it actually teaches the little ones how to look after and how to care for a chick in a nest, which is a very interesting thing. They're a little bit like pandas, in a way, just thinking about it. Obviously there's some subtle differences, fur as opposed to feathers, and what you got there, Chandra? Bug. I don't want to squash it. Sorry. Chandra found a friend this morning.
Oh.
I don't think it wanted to be separated from you, Chandra.
Understandable.
I know. Obviously didn't want to be near me. It wanted only Chandra. It was a purple bug. I can't tell you what it was. Marianne's on the same page as me. Marianne is saying that she loves the call of the ground hornbills and that she finds it very similar to a male lion's roar, which of course we just heard now as well, and that it's very earthy and primal. That's exactly how I feel. It's a very, very primal sound. I love it. It's doot 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 doot. It is like some kind of ancient instrument. There's no other bird call except perhaps the Varro's eagle owl that compares. Oh, and maybe an ostrich. But I think the ground hornbills is the most beautiful of the lot. Hey, mister. I'm quite a long way behind your family. Although we have managed to catch up with them. Call again for us, please. You only hear them calling first thing in the morning and in the evening. They're not birds that continue to sing or to call throughout the day. And that's how we used to try and find their nest sites. We used to get up at 3 o'clock in the morning, or be out at 3 o'clock in the morning, because they start calling from their nests as soon as it gets light. And that's what makes me wonder if they don't have a nest somewhere here, because just the fact that we're hearing them before sunrise every morning. But we used to go racing off in the vague direction that we hoped there maybe was a ground hornbill nest, and then stop and listen. Have our coffee and just listen. And as soon as we heard them, all coffee was thrown out. We raced off, all jumped back in the car, raced as close as possible to where we could to the tree. Then we'd jump out of the car and start running through the bush, which is not, of course, we didn't do that with guests. We just did it on our own because you shouldn't really run through the bush. But we used to, let's say we did a very fast march through the bush to try and get there before they leave, because otherwise trying to find a ground hornbill nest is a very tricky thing indeed. But hopefully things are looking up for the ground hornbill as a species. As our ground hornbill toddle off, I think I'm probably going to leave them to go about their morning business. Let's go over to Byron for an update.
All right, so we haven't had too much luck with anything else, but what an amazing sighting of those ground hornbills. We could hear them calling this morning. We unfortunately didn't get to see them, but to have them so close to the vehicle, or that one especially, and calling like that is very special. I'm so glad you got to see it. So what I've been doing, everyone, is just driving along the southern boundary, the Gowrie access, just to have a look if we've got any signs of leopards crossing in and out. And it is sometimes tricky to drive and look for tracks at the same time, but no sign just yet. I've been hoping that we hear some alarm calls perhaps. That is a huge help in finding animals, especially predators. You listen to alarm calls from other species, other animals like all the herbivores. A lot of the antelope all have different and unique alarm calls, and that does help a lot at finding predators. And then we were chatting earlier about the difference between antelope and deer. As I said, the main difference is that the antelope have horns and the deer have antlers. That is the main difference. The digestive system is very much the same. Also, we don't... So historically we don't have any deer in Africa. The deer are mainly up in North America and up in Europe. We have introduced, or people have introduced, some species of deer into South Africa or Southern Africa, but they don't occur within the national parks. That would be in certain areas that perhaps farmers have introduced them purely for hunting purposes. So I know down in the Eastern Cape, so the southeastern part of South Africa, they have introduced fallow deer, which comes from the UK, I believe, and that was mainly for hunting purposes, so for venison. But up in these areas, in the natural areas, there are no deer, only antelope species, and quite a few different species of antelope. Right, I'm going to continue checking this boundary road all the way around, because it would be wonderful if we do have any sign of a leopard. Or what tracks are these? Let me just have a look. Let me see if I can show these to you, and I might be able to. I think so. Exit. Let me see if I can. Can you see that little scuff mark in the sand over there? Let me get out quickly and see if I can show it to you. I think you should get it at this angle. Let's just see if I can show you quickly. Let me just try and get a stick. A bit easier to point out with a stick. Where is this track? Okay, here we go. Let me just see. Can you see this one over here? Can you see that? It's a bit tricky. This is a hyena track, everyone. And I'm trying to see if there's another clearer one. And here's another one. If we just come a little bit this way. There's another one there. Can you see that? Okay, so what I wanted to show you with the hyena tracks, and this hyena was probably moving around during the course of the evening, but it's easily identifiable, and this is the back pad. So let me show you with the stick. That is the back pad. I'll trace around it. That section over there. So the back pad of the hyena track. Then you have 1, 2, 3, 4 toes. Now, the hyena track, what makes it different to big cats, so leopard or lion moving around, because this is a fairly large track. Some people might look at it and go, oh, there's a cat that's walked past here. But hyena track at the back pad, it actually has 2 lobes. So what I mean by that is this lobe extends around the back and it bends in slightly and then comes out to form a second lobe. So only 2 lobes right at the back of the pad, whereas all the big cats have got 3 very clear lobes. So you'll see 1, 2, 3 at the back pad. And then also the interesting thing with the hyena track, and to be honest, a good tracker would probably just see that section of the track, and they would still be able to tell you that it's a hyena. And the reason for that is this toe. And a lot of these toes, especially these outer ones, are kidney-shaped. So they're easily to identify. Whereas the big cats, all their tracks, the toes are very, very round, very circular, and not this kidney shape like this hyena. The other thing you might be able to pick up is some claw marks, and there's one or two just over here. It's very difficult to see, and I doubt you'll be able to make it out. You might be able to. And it's also, generally, if they're standing in deep sand, you'll be able to pick up on the claws a bit easier. But the reason for that is the hyena don't have retractable claws like the big cats do, like lion or leopard. So with those cat tracks, you won't necessarily see the claws unless it's a cheetah. Remember, the cheetah don't have retractable claws, and the reason for that is that when they are running at top speeds, they use their claws for traction, so their claws are not retractable, whereas lion and leopards, they are. But all three of those big cats have got a very clear W at the back, or 3 lobes at the back of the pad, whereas the hyena, those very clear 2 lobes. I think it's a bit too early to bend down like that. But it's nice to see, and we haven't seen any hyena walking around for quite some time. And again, my theory is that because of all the lion activity, but who knows, there are hyena around, there are clear signs of them around. We might see some. I heard some early this morning. I did hear hyena in the distance, quite far away from camp. Alright, now we've been looking at some tracks, and one of the best times to look for tracks is actually when you are walking through the bush. And Steph has just got out on his bushwalk. Let's see what he's up to. Oh dear, it sounds like Steph is just having some audio issues there quickly. They'll sort that out soon, and we'll head back to him and he'll say good morning. But these tracks of this hyena, they've come all along the road. So I walked along here during the course of the evening. This is interesting. They've actually walked up and down the road, so backwards and forwards. And that can sometimes be a good sign. It could possibly be that there may have been a predator in the area that the hyena were following. Now, hyena are scavengers. And what they do is they're very opportunistic, and I've seen it before. They occasionally follow animals like leopards. The reason for a leopard being followed is it's a bit easier to chase off of a kill as opposed to a lion, obviously. Lions are much bigger. And hyena will take a chance, try and chase a leopard off a kill, but I have also seen leopards stand their ground, especially big males. They don't like hyena, and they'll stand their ground and keep a hyena away. But if it's a female, and if she manages to kill something, often the hyena will run in, chase the female away, and try and scavenge some of the kill, whatever it is that they've got. I'm just looking, making sure I don't see tracks or signs of anything else, any other predator moving around here, but it looks like it's just the hyena that's moved up and down here. It's a lovely morning. It started off fairly warm, and then the temperature dropped as the sun rose, and we had to put on some jerseys and jackets. But it's still very, very pleasant. It's a lovely morning, very, very nice morning. We had a beautiful sunrise. I think it's probably going to be a very hot day again today, unless the cloud cover comes over. And I know from guiding in the past, guiding guests, I'd always say, well, what is the weather going to be like today? And I'd say, well, let's wait till 8:30, about 8:30, and then I'll make a call, because I've seen it so often where we start off on the morning and it's a beautiful, beautiful, clear morning, and all of a sudden the clouds come over, and then it's cloudy and overcast for the rest of the day. Or it happens the opposite way around. Starts off cloudy and overcast, and then it clears up. scanning to see if there are perhaps any birds of prey sitting around in some of these big trees. Did you see what I saw? I thought I saw one fly off. I thought I saw a vulture fly off. Hang on. Ah, there it is sitting. Well spotted, Eggsy. Can you get it through there? Let's have a look there. The light might be a bit tricky, but let's see. Looked like a vulture sitting in the tree. A bunch of them, look at that. Ah, interesting. A lot of vultures. I wonder why all those vultures are there. This is a very, very thick area. Now, often what happens, and we've seen in the past, the last few weeks, quite a few buffalo dying because of the drought and not having enough food and really struggling. And with a lot of these buffalo carcasses, we have seen quite a lot of vulture activity. The lions have been attracted to some of them. But I wonder if there isn't perhaps another buffalo carcass around there. Those look like white-backed vultures. That's exactly what they are, the white-backed vultures. So there's potentially a carcass in there. Now, we know the Nkuhuma Pride were north of our boundary yesterday. So I highly doubt that this is from a lion kill, because we're quite far from where they were found yesterday and where they ended up moving to. And also the vultures wouldn't necessarily fly not necessarily, they wouldn't at all. They wouldn't fly at night, because the vultures rely on the thermals to pick up hot air as it rises, and they use that to fly and soar around looking for food. So what's happened here is these vultures were most likely got here yesterday already. That's why I'm leaning towards a carcass that has died, possibly of natural causes. I also don't think it's a leopard kill, and the reason for that is because leopards tend to hide their kills very, very well, so that vultures don't see them. They don't want to attract any attention to them unnecessarily. And I think what I'm going to do is I might just take a little walk into the bush here quickly, just see if I can't see any sign of a carcass and what these vultures have been attracted to. And speaking of carcass, Steph actually has a carcass that he'd like to show you on the walk.
Good morning. We definitely do have a carcass over here, and just as perplexing as that tree full of vultures is to Byron, so is this particular kill. This one has been lying here now for about 3 weeks. It's an adult waterbuck, and it died here along with another waterbuck, which is just at the base of that tree. Which is quite odd, is the fact that these two are lying very close together, but they don't seem to have been killed by a lion, to be quite honest with you. I don't know what killed this. I would presume that it died of natural causes. It died of the drought is what I'm being trying to say. And by that I mean probably either malnutrition or just dehydration, or one of the two. And I'll go into a little bit more now of what I think is going on over here, and at least what the bush is doing with it. So at the moment you've got all these little bugs and beetles that are eating off the last little bits of flesh adhering to the bones underneath the skin, and they'll pretty much pick the carcass clean. Then the keratin bugs, or the beetles, and the moth larvae will come in and will finish off the hair and the skin. Some animals like porcupine and honey badger, hyena, will then follow and dismember this carcass slowly but surely over the next couple of years, really, and start to spread it out into the bush to where we'll eventually just be left with a scattering of bones here. What is quite interesting, that very, very little goes to waste. What we're looking at now is a carcass that's about 3 weeks old, crawling with bugs and beetles. The flies and the maggots have pretty much moved on. We've just got some keratin beetles here. They're already starting to feed on the fur. Those are keratin beetles, and they will eat the hair. And it's not that smelly, to be honest with you. It's got this musty smell when you're sitting downwind of it. It's not the most pleasant smell, but it definitely isn't nauseating at all. And this was where the tummy contents was. This was inside the stomach of this waterbuck. They are grass feeding, they're grazers, and so you could expect to find, and we do find, a bunch of very fine grass shards, mainly which have been utilized by termites already. So you can see by these sandy tunnels, this is where the termites have come up from underneath the ground and have pretty much eaten out this tummy contents here from the ground up, leaving literally just the last little bits of the hardest grass. Isn't it interesting? I suppose I could take this time to introduce myself now finally. We had a little bit of an audio issue, you know, coming to you live from the African bush out here does present itself at least with some challenges from time to time. My name is Stefan Winterboer. I'm a wilderness trails guide, and on camera today we have VM. There we go, saying hello to you. All right, what are we doing on foot, you may ask? Well, exploring Africa on foot pretty much been happening for the last couple of 100 years, really. Let's go and have a look over there. Now, Honey Ocelot, you've asked me if or when the carcass will stop smelling. It doesn't actually smell that unpleasant now, 3 weeks down the line. We haven't even had any decent rain just yet. I suppose it'll stop smelling completely in another 2 weeks or so, where everything will just be too dried out. The sun at the moment when it does come out is quite intense, and once the rain washes away the last little bits of skin and meat and starts to disperse it, then it really doesn't smell at all. As to how long it is before I'd be comfortable picking up a bone of one of these animals that have died here, probably next season only. I would wait for a decent amount of time for the rain to wash anything off here. One of the diseases that afflicts the ruminating animals out here is anthrax, and anthrax spores can stay active, although dormant, but they can stay alive basically for many years, many dozens of years. In some cases I've even heard of even hundreds of years for an anthrax spore to stay dormant. So you don't want to go and touch things like tummy contents and everything like that, not this time of the year after the type of drought that we had. Let's go and see what's happened to this one. This is another one that's why I say that they haven't been killed by lions. They may have been fed briefly on by lions, but the carcasses are not dismembered. Lions tend to dismember a carcass and leave it scattered around. As they fight and jostle for food scraps, they can quite often tear off a limb. They tear the carcasses in half, tearing off a head, and they'll each take a piece or a prize and take it underneath a bush somewhere close by, and you quite often find relatively fresh carcasses, just slightly more spread. What killed these two? They look almost exactly the same age, to be honest with you. I would say probably either the same disease or on the same hot, dry day, they just succumbed to either dehydration or just malnutrition. Their bodies just couldn't take it. Here you're looking inside the rib cage. That would have been where the Now, Marco, you've asked me, do waterbuck suffer? It's a good question, considering and what we've seen with those little lions. I suppose that they could suffer from mange mite, Marco. I mean, I can't imagine why they would be, why they couldn't be, why they wouldn't suffer from mange. I would imagine that they could catch it very similar to how other animals could, at least anyway. Have I ever seen a waterbuck with mange? No, I haven't seen a waterbuck with mange. Similar to, I've never seen a zebra with mange either, or one of the smaller antelope. I've never seen a grey duiker or steenbuck with mange either. It tends to be sort of confined to giraffe and to lion, really, which is I've seen lots of mange on. I suppose if I put my mind to it, I could probably remember kudu. That's what VM says, yes, kudu with some mange. So yes, the mange mite can afflict any of these animals. Whether they succumb to it or not is a different story, I suppose. Right, now back to the reason why we are being explored, first, I suppose, on foot and on horseback for hundreds of years, and then when the vehicles came in about 100 years ago, we started to travel in a vehicle. Like humans on foot, we have never been hunting animals in the Kruger National Park from a car. And so the reason why it's so close to these animals from a vehicle is because they completely trust people in a car. They don't associate people in a car with any sort of danger whatsoever. Whereas man on foot is the sort of apex bipedal predator on the planet and has been for many, many years. And man on horseback also represents a fair danger to them. And so their distance that they're comfortable with you approaching the two is slightly different. So what can we expect? We can expect to get closer to big animals, big dangerous animals in a car. But what we can do is get you much closer to the smaller and just as interesting things on foot. And that's what we're going to try and do and show you today. But on that note, and I'm sure just because Jamie is still pattering around here, I'm going to get it in the neck for that one. Why don't we send you to
Well done, Jandre. Bravo. Jamie Patterington. I have a mystery track, and I don't quite know exactly what it is. I am, however, really enjoying not having a door. Now I'm sitting here very comfortably examining the track on the ground. I drove over it before I saw it and then went back to it. It's not a drag mark. I think I know what it is. I'm going to jump out and have a look. I think I know what it is, but it's quite a peculiar one. Oh, that was so easy to do. I think it's very difficult to see, and I know it's quite difficult for all of you in this light, but I think these tracks on either side are the giveaway. And because you can't see it that clearly, I'm going to describe them to you. It's a sweep, an outwards facing sweep, just a slight sweep on each little track on either side of this. And that to me suggests a terrapin. So terrapins often drag their shells on the ground. So you often see far more than you do with tortoises. Tortoises are much better at walking because they are, of course, purely terrestrial, whereas terrapins spend most of their time in water. So they'll drag their shell around, and I think we've even got the imprint of the tail. If we look really, really closely here, we've got the imprint of the tail as well. This terrapin was going in that direction, and I can see that even if I couldn't see the sweep of the feet. They also often drag their feet more than tortoises do. They walk like this with their front feet. I think that is what it is. Not an odd track though. It's a very odd track and quite unusual to see it in this form. But that is what it is. It's a long way from water, this poor terrapin, unless it knows something that we don't. They can cover enormous distances. Not hiding here somewhere. No. They can cover relatively large distances over land. They're not purely water-based. But this one's going to have a hard time finding water in that direction. The closest water in that direction is, at this point, unless it rains, Red Dam. It's probably the closest water. There's no water left in the pans on Impala Road. That's a long way for a little terrapin to go. They can survive for quite a long time, though, outside of water. So they basically just, if they can't get to water and there's been no rain, they can just sort of go back into their estivation period and find themselves a nice sheltered spot where it's not too hot, it's perfectly comfortable, possibly even underground, although I'm not sure if terrapins ever go underground. I know speaks do, which is a type of tortoise. But there you go, an interesting track. I'm sorry I drove over it before I noticed it. I was not paying attention. Now, for those of you, I've just remembered now that I'm driving, for those of you that feel as though you're on a roller coaster with us, it is because unfortunately we have a minor problem with the camera. So it's not that I'm just driving like a reckless hooligan, more so than I normally do. It's the fact that the camera is causing that feeling as though you're on a roller coaster. So we are going to go back and change the camera so that you don't feel as if you're going to throw up every time I drive. Now driving really slowly. Really slowly. I've left my ground hornbill for now. Obviously, they did move off into some dense vegetation. How's the rocking motion going, Rebecca? Hello? Ah, there we go. Bex says it's like a lullaby. Does it feel like a lullaby? I hope so. I hope it's very soothing, but please don't fall asleep. You might miss something exciting. Even though I know that for many of you it is actually quite late. No sleeping. I also can't really do this entire drive at a crawl. I could basically run next to the vehicle and go faster. Looking for more baby impalas. I want to see more baby impalas. So while I look for more baby impalas, let's head over to Byron and find out what his plans for his morning are.
So I took a walk through the thicket, and unfortunately I didn't come up with anything. No sign of any carcass. And I was just explaining to Eggsy, what happens is often these vultures will find trees, not necessarily directly above the carcass. They'll just find the trees that are big enough and probably open enough, so they prefer bare trees because it's easier for them to land with those large wings. So it doesn't mean they're necessarily always very close to the carcass. The carcass could be a few hundred meters away at times. But I took a walk through that block, had a good look around. I don't see anything. I couldn't see any signs of a carcass around there, but it could be something. But I do believe or do think that it's possibly something that died of natural causes from the drought, maybe another buffalo. But interesting nonetheless to see so many vultures around. But as I said, those vultures would have arrived in this area yesterday and not this morning or last night. So they've probably been there a while, and it helps a lot more if the vultures are flying down to feed on the carcass. Then you can have a good idea where that carcass is, or if they take off from the carcass. But then in the evenings they'll fly back up to the trees and they'll roost there for the night, and then later when the day starts warming up and the thermals start rising, that's when the vultures will start flying around, probably head down to that carcass if there is one around there. But it's interesting, it's wonderful to be able to drive around and pick up on these signs that there's obviously something going on, there's something in the area, even though we're not able to find it all the time, but it's still exciting. It still gives you that idea that there's always something going on in nature, even though we don't see it. I still haven't had any sign of leopard tracks, unfortunately. I'm heading towards an area called Sandy Patch, and I'm going to hang around there a little bit and just see if we don't get any alarm calls from impala or other antelope around that area that is a little bit more open. But it's been for us a bit of a quiet morning, and it's just so funny. It works out like that sometimes. You can drive around through an entire property and see very, very little. I mean, I think we saw 2 impala this morning so far. That's about it. But it's good. It gives us time to appreciate some of the smaller things that we don't always look at or see. There are some elephant tracks around here. That would be nice. I'd love to find some elephant. man, age 10, all the way from Jacksonville. Hello, Blaine, how are you? It's so nice to have you watching the show with us. You want to know why we always wear hats. So one reason, Blaine, is that the sun gets very, very hot out here in Africa, so we do have to try and protect our faces a little bit. And the other reason is, people are so clever nowadays. What they've done is they've put our microphone in our hats, so you might hear that tapping, and so it helps having the hat, and then that's where our microphone is, so that you can hear us speaking. But the main reason is for the sun, Blaine. I'm just still scanning around, having a look, and I'd like to see some new bird species perhaps this morning. That would be great. I saw one earlier, but it was very, very quick, a fleeting glimpse of that Steeling's wren warbler, and I've mentioned it before in the past. It's a beautiful little bird, but very tiny, and I was saying to Eggsy, I don't think I've seen one for about 5 years. I've heard them, but they're very secretive, and unless you really go and look for them, they're difficult to see. I just heard one calling, got to see it, and then it flew off, as they do. But who knows what other bird species we could find this morning. And I'd like to also see some more impala lambs. I saw one yesterday afternoon very briefly. Hang on, I thought I spotted something. I could be wrong. And Blaine, you want to know, are they called antelope because they eat ants? No, Blaine, they're not. Antelope, I actually don't know where the name comes from there, but the antelope are herbivores, which means they eat grass and vegetation. So leaves of trees or grass, that's what the antelope species feed on. They are herbivores. We call it herbivores. They only feed on vegetation. So despite the confusing name, they don't feed on ants. Also trying to look out for those wonderful woodland kingfishers. Now we've been hearing them, and I've seen one or two, but just glimpses. I'd love to get one sitting in a tree calling for us. That would be great. I know Brent's been very lucky with them. He's seen quite a few. Okay, so we're going to continue our search for birds and leopards and other animals, anything at this stage. While we do that, Steph is still on a walk. Let's see what he's got.
Hey?
Stand it anyway.
Oh, welcome back. You've caught us while we're busy looking around for some tracks of some predator. In the area, there's been some alarm calls, and impala alarm calling, they sometimes alarm call for nothing, their own shadow, but they could also can alarm call for serval, for caracal, African wildcat, large eagles, and then of course leopard and lion as well. But what we've done is we've just moved into the area here, and we're just hoping to pick up some other type of track. So it's difficult to, when you're in the middle of a block like we are, you can see over here that there's no really well-defined game paths anywhere. And the trick is to just look for any entrance points into places like this to see what has been walking around. The only thing of note that I'd like to say right now is there was a track of a very large baboon here, and although that has no relevance in my mind to why the impala were giving their alarm calls, it is important to know that for a long time we didn't see baboon here at Djuma, and then I think it was the beginning of the dry season we started to see a fairly large troop, and now they're fairly common to see here on Djuma. For whatever reason they've decided to move back. But these lone bull baboons that you're seeing, and that's the tracks that we saw up there, was just a large track of a single bull baboon. These baboons can set you quite a challenge. Must be honest, to have a baboon living around the camp is something that you got to watch out for. They can become very mischievous and very imaginative thieves is a word I'd like to use over there. That's what they can come. All right, here's something. And what you want to try and do if you know you've got a baboon around the area that you live in is to keep all the areas where you keep food nice and closed. You've got to keep your rubbish locked away, and then at a point you've got to keep the windows away, and eventually that baboon moves off. Of course there's no merit or there's no value in staying close to a homestead that doesn't provide him with easy food, and he'll move off eventually, and that's what we're hoping. The tracks that we saw were not too fresh. I would say probably about a day or two old, but it's a good thing. We'll keep an eye open for some baboon, more baboon as we go. Now, this is the dung of what looks to be a hippopotamus. Now, I'll answer your question in a second, Brian, but this is just quite interesting to note. This is a relatively small piece of dung. Here's my fist. Comparatively speaking, for a hippopotamus, generally they can deposit dung over here that's many, many times the size of my fist, but in this particular case, just a little bit, and it can be quite confusing. This is almost the size of a piece of lion dung, or maybe just a large leopard scat, but when you get closer and you realize that there's just a lot of grass in it, it is a dead giveaway that the black color and the presence of as much grass as what we saw on it is a hippopotamus. And quite a difficult question that. Now, the question was asked, why was the name quarantine given to quarantine? It's such an interesting and different name to the names that we generally encounter right here, and it was named quarantine for a specific reason. It was fenced at a time, and animals that were reintroduced into the Sabi sand were placed there for a time period to acclimatize, not just to the vegetation but also to the presence of predators in the area. Animals that come from areas with low or no predator densities need to spend a time separate from those predators in order to build up their natural and instinctive fear of these animals. Not everybody's born, or not all animals are born with an instinctive knowledge on how to deal with a lion. And in the case of reintroductions here, rhinoceros, nyala and wildebeest, and even to a point ostrich were reintroduced here, and almost all of them were heavily preyed on by the lion prides in this area. And so having this quarantine area, which was that open area that we've just crossed over, that we do cross over often on walks like this, was separate from the rest of the reserve, and then basically housed these animals for a time period, a couple of weeks to a couple of months, depending on the animal, before they were let go into the wild. All right, Byron's got a long-tailed shrike, and you can see what that's up to.
We do have two beautiful magpie shrikes sitting out in the open. And they were calling for us. I'm hoping they'll call again. The interesting thing with these birds is they are monogamous, so they do stay in pairs. Look at that beautiful, slightly hooked beak. Can you see that as it turns with the light hitting it? Very sharp hooked beak. And these birds feed on insects, like most of the other shrikes. And they do have that beautiful long tail. It's amazing how they can balance with that tail, and you'll often see it just constantly moving backwards and forwards, keeping the balance of the bird. It used to be known as the long-tailed shrike, and a few years ago the name changed to the magpie shrike. Beautiful birds. A very distinct call. I'm hoping they call again, but they've decided to stay quiet now. Some Cape turtle doves also calling. Now, I've been trying to do some bird calls in the past, and I don't know if I can do a Magpie Shrike call. I can try my best. Or more like a... No, that's... Oh dear. But yeah, these melodious whistling calls are not always easy to mimic. Beautiful birds there. Lovely to see them. I'm so glad they sat out in the open for us on that branch. Let's see what else we can find. Let's continue our search in the great wide wilderness.